The X-Men movies are unique among superhero flicks. They juggle such a large cast with such a diverse array of superpowers in a way that many would think is impossible. And they do it with mixed success. But that mixed success is in itself intriguing. In each of these three series, we have great superhero movies standing shoulder to shoulder with garbage. So what's the point of this video? To take out the trash.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
No, the point of this is to improve the gold and the garbage. Together we'll go movie by movie through a few changes, fixing this mixed bag of a series, and hopefully come out the other end with something great. Oh, and keep in mind that these changes are what I think is realistic. I'm not gonna add in an army of new characters or make 4-hour epics. We are operating within the constraints of the real world, with its budgets, casts, etc. That said, without further ado, let's dive in. Change number 1. Darwin lives. This one is pretty obvious. In the comics, Darwin is immortal in a way that is basically immutable. He adapts to everything instinctively. So killing him off in this movie was an interesting choice. I wonder why. I wonder why he was the only one to die.
The enslaved
What?
will rise up to rule.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Quick fix. You can still have Darwin leave the movie without disrespecting his obvious immortality. Darwin should survive Shaw's attack, but be as close to grievously wounded as he can be. He'll be in critical condition, slowly regenerating. That way he's not dead and you can even use him later if you want. It'd even be funny if he had a bunch of references in the next few movies. Oh, Darwin was here, you just missed him. Oh, want to go to Professor Darwin's class? Nah. Where's Darwin? Oh, he's on his lunch break. Change number 2. More Moira. At a certain point in the movie, namely when our heroes go to the X-Manor, Moira disappears. She's basically in the background of scenes with minimal speaking lines up until the finale. This undercuts her both as a love interest for Xavier and as an integral figure in the origin of the X-Men. Let's fix that. Remember this guy? No you don't. Cut him from the movie, replace him with Moira. It's not his facility that the guys go to, it's hers. It's not him who argues about involving the government in finding mutants, it's her. That way her presence is felt throughout the movie, instead of just at the beginning and end.
Impressive, Hank. Feet like those, all you need is a red nose. Right, Bozo?
Also, this scene shouldn't feature Alex, a fellow mutant, making an overt aggression against Hank. Instead, it should feature Moira, a non-mutant, making an unintentional microaggression against Hank. That way she has something to say, and reinforces Hank's insecurities about his appearance. Change number 1. Nerf Quicksilver. Now I know the Quicksilver scene is iconic, and we don't have to lose it, but we do have to explain it in a way that makes it so Quicksilver isn't the win button he should have been. How do we do that? By making his power have a price. After all, running is an exhausting exercise, so running at his fastest should exhaust him. That scene should be Quicksilver putting in 150%. After, you can have him either collapse or be ultra-winded. And that can be the explanation for why he isn't in the rest of the movie, trivializing every obstacle. He's basically out of juice and needs to recover. Easy. Change number 2. Give Havoc a bigger role. It's strange to me how Havoc is treated in these movies. Of the first X students, he, Beast, and Mystique are the only survivors, and Darwin in my version. But Havoc is always in the background. I don't think he needs to participate as much as the other two because our movie would be cluttered. But I do think he needs more of a role, especially since Apocalypse is coming.
What did he say?
So, have him be Mystique's partner in crime. He can help her get to the Vietnamese general by doing soldier stuff, take her to the Paris Accords as a veteran, then get a head injury there and be out of commission for the finale. Take note of that head injury, by the way.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Change number 3. Wolverine's ending. Wolverine gets a happy ending in the future, but in the past he gets got by Stryker. Oh wait, it's not Stryker, it's Mystique. But why? He still gets the adamantium, he's still in a facility in Apocalypse. So what did she actually do differently? Spoiler alert, the answer is nothing. This is a nothing reveal that went nowhere. So, we're gonna fix this. First, Stryker stays Stryker. No Mystique reveal. Second, we need an explanation for why Xavier didn't rescue Wolverine, especially since he promised to find him earlier in the movie. Because right now he just kinda looks like a forgetful jerk. So have Stryker put Logan in a box made from the same material as Magneto's helmet. We can even give it a dumb name like Telepathium, or Thinkium, or Brain Rock. Change number 1. Cut the Wolverine scene. I'm getting this out of the way since it's quick. Wolverine doesn't add anything to this movie. Not only that, his appearance makes the ending of Days of Future Past, where Mystique finds him, mean nothing. If you want a fun Wolverine rampage, go watch X2. Nixing this section will give us more time and money to do other fun things that we'll get to. Change number 2. Change Apocalypse. I found our mutant god to be a little wishy-washy in this movie. He touts his comic book philosophy of strong good, which makes sense, but he also laments that humanity uses technology to get the upper hand. Big bro, you use technology to get the upper hand. Plus, this version steals powers to survive, unlike the comic book one who is just that kid at recess that says,
I have every power.
So
Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
So we can
Build a better one!
cut the opening scene, because the powers shown are cool, but we're removing the power stealing mechanic. Instead, Apocalypse won't show up until those cultists unearth him later in the movie. And his motivations will be that he wants to kill off everyone he deems as weak. Or, in his eyes, anyone with any sort of deficiency. Any form of handicap from deafness to poor sight, you're gone. Apocalypse wants to wipe the genetic slate clean, and plans to use Xavier to eradicate all imperfections from the face of the Earth. Change number 3. Change the Horseman. Let's go down the list. First, Magneto. Cut his tragic backstory. Instead, show him as a lone agent, but show that he's lonely and unfulfilled. He's still waging his war against mankind, but he's flying
Solo.
So when Apocalypse offers him a higher purpose, he leaps at the chance. Now he will turn on Apocalypse at the end of the movie, but said heel turn will arrive a little sooner, preferably before he causes irrevocable damage and kills presumably hundreds of thousands if not millions of people. And preferably because A, he doesn't want to become like Apocalypse, whose ideology is a more extreme version of Magneto's, and B, because Quicksilver does confess that he is Eric's son. Lastly, at the end of this movie, Eric will stay at the X-Mansion. He's not going off on his own again, because he doesn't want to, or have to, be alone anymore. But he's not Charles 2.0 either, and in fact it'd be cool if he trains the students in combat alongside Mystique. I feel like that's a perfect arc for his character. Next, buff Storm. These movies need to put some respect on Storm's name. She's one of the strongest mutants in the comics. Stop putting her in the background. Since we cut a bunch of scenes, we're gonna put some of that money into making Storm a goddess. Can you imagine a final battle where she goes up against Quicksilver? And while he's super speeding, she's slowing him down with wind and trying to strike him with lightning? You can have a sequence where he's dodging lightning strikes that's turning sand into pillars of glass, with Quicksilver trying to reach Storm while she shields herself with gale winds and torrential rain. I'm getting hyped just thinking about it. This would be peak cinema! Make Psylocke Moira's companion. None of you care about Caliban, right? Great! He's cut. Psylocke is with Moira as an agent of the CIA. And now instead of Storm being Apocalypse's first recruit, Psylocke is. Because she's more interested in freedom than being a servant of the homeland. This little connection can come back in the finale if we want, so Moira has something to do. But either way, this ties Psylocke to our heroes in a way the movie did not. And finally, replace Angel with Havoc. None of you care about Angel, right? Great, he's cut. Remember when I mentioned Havoc getting a head wound in the last movie? Well, it's short-circuited his powers in this movie. And just like Angel was hurt and turned to Apocalypse for rejuvenation, so too will Alex Summers turn to his mutant messiah. This will change some things. I think it'd be cool if Alex visits the X-Mansion not to drop off Scott, but instead to recruit him. But, most importantly, this change will lead to a final battle of brothers, as Cyclops and Havoc duke it out. I envision the end of Alex to be tied to the end of Apocalypse. Havoc will be a part of the final push to take down our villain, overloading his unstable body to help Jean deliver the final blow. Boom. Dynamite. Change number 4. Make Cyclops and Jean the main characters. This movie seemed to be in part about passing the torch, but it didn't quite stick the landing. So remember all those scenes we cut? We're gonna give that screen time to Cyclops and Jean. When Cyclops clearly murders that kid in school, Jean should be the one to pick him up alongside Xavier or Hank. Either or. We should develop these two as friends and trainees, seeing a lot of the movie through their eyes. Through their glowing, deadly eyes. Also, Cyclops should take the lead at the end of the movie alongside Mystique. I don't have anything against her, but I feel like her arc was kind of completed in Days of Future Past, then semi-reset in this one. Hey, maybe Jean can be the one who asks Mystique to stay. That'd be a nice touch, especially since down the line they stay friends and nothing bad happens. Oops! Change number 1. Change Buck. You guys remember Buck? No? Wow, that's shocking. Buck is an alien who wants to steal Jean Grey's powers. Yeah, this movie has aliens, what of it? Buck is blonde, telepathic, manipulative, and a rival to Jean Grey. You probably already know where I'm going with this. Make Buck Emma Frost. And I know, there was a point in Days of Future Past where Magneto mentions that Emma is totes dead. But William Stryker is both these guys. Professor X and Magneto are 60 years old in Dark Phoenix. Nobody in X2 knows Nightcrawler even though they went to school with him. Continuity is irrelevant. Time is meaningless. So we're trading the aliens for rogue mutants. We're nixing Buck. Emma Frost is the White Queen of the Hellfire Club Reborn, and Jean is both her protege and her Phoenix. Speaking of, change number 2. Change Jean Grey. The lore of the Phoenix is too vast to shove into one movie, so I'm going to reshape it in a way that might annoy some comic fans. Sorry, no aliens, no spacefaring cosmic entity. In my version, Jean and the Phoenix are one and the same. Let me explain. The crux of this movie comes from a few flashbacks. We see Jean's powers cause a car accident which kills her mom. Her daddy abandons her, Xavier takes her in, then years later Jean ingests the Phoenix Force. Even though she had Phoenix powers in the flashback and last film. Oh god, the movie can't even stick with its own continuity. Anyway, let's fix this mess by making Jean two people. Let me explain. Again. Remember those flashbacks I mentioned 5 seconds ago? We're gonna tweak those. And we're gonna show Jean as a kid not just using her powers to cause the car accident accidentally, but using them before, to terrorize her parents. She's a child after all, with the powers of a demigod. So she throws telekinetic tantrums, she freezes her parents in place, she makes them forget things, she makes their lives miserable. The car accident wasn't an isolated incident. It was the end of a long road of suffering. So when Daddy Grey begs Xavier to take Jean, it's partially because his wife is gone, but it's mostly because Jean is a living nightmare. So what does Charles do? He locks this version of Jean within her own mind. He smooths the edges of her personality so that she can fit into society, because he fears what a sociopath like Jean could become with such overwhelming power. So he justifies himself by saying he was protecting both her and the world. But in doing so, he creates a split. There's the heroic Jean we know, and inner Jean, evil incarnate, who has been locked away. And that divide between them has corroded since the encounter with Apocalypse, releasing evil Jean. So the conflict will be between these two halves of one person. And we can get into nature versus nurture, what really makes someone who they are, all that jazz. Basically the stuff the movie was trying to explore, but didn't really get to. Plus, since this version of Magneto is already at the school, since this version of Cyclops and Jean are already the new main characters, since our audience is already passingly familiar with Emma, we can spend less time setting up and more time diving into what actually matters, and making those big moments mean something. That is the purpose of this exercise, after all. Not to put cool things in that I want to see, or blindly criticize something years after its making, but to spot the flaws in writing and amend them in ways that flow with the overall narrative. Because I do like aspects from all of these movies. There are things I remember that I thought I wouldn't, and scenes I appreciated more on a rewatch. So just keep in mind that even if you think these adjustments were great, they did have a foundation. I just built on top of it. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. Like and subscribe if you please, as I've got future essays like this coming, along with rewrites and more. And until the next one, cheers.